Now, please. Hello.
Yes, sir, you are clearly visible and your audio also is clear. Please
Oh,
begin your valedictory session, sir.
okay, thank you very much. Well, friends, I am very happy that Kash Foundation has been so gracious as to invite me to give the valedictory address to this conference. And the topic of this conference for me, for the valedictory, is what does India value or celebrate in the arts? That is, what is that we celebrate in the art? So I will, for the next half an hour, engage your attention, and I hope I am able to say something useful to you. So let us begin. Varanamartha sanghanam rasanam chandasamapि mangalanam chakartarau vande vani vinayakau. Friends, it is a common saying that in India, arts are meant to take us to a higher level of understanding, and they are meant also to bring us close to the divine. Now, we are never tired of saying that India is a highly spiritual culture, and therefore arts also serve the function of improving the spiritual urge among the people and leading them towards a higher goal. Now, while this is entirely true, the fact is that it is not what tradition has been considering as the primary aim of art. You see, in India, we have always held that there are three aims of life: dharma, artha, and kama. Later on, the three were turned into four: dharma, artha, kam, and moksha. Dharma was split into dharma and moksha. So, what a human being lives for, what an intelligent person, man or woman, should live for, is not just spirituality, is not just pursuit of the divinity, but pursuit of life in all its entirety. That is, for dharma, for artha, for kam, and moksha. So all four which make up your life have to have a place for art in it. Now that's the most important thing. That art is something which is not just for the artist. Music is not just for the musician. You see, you hear music as soon as you are born. Your mother sings a song. She coos to you. She sings a lullaby. Now that's when music is introduced in a human relationship and a very intimate relationship. Painting is something which you see as a beautiful surrounding. Similarly, theatre, similarly, poetry, use of language, all these things have a daily use, they have a specific use, and they have what may be called a highly aesthetic use. Now, how is it that we are going to use arts? And what is it that we are going to celebrate most in art? I mean, this is the most valid question. How is the art of India different from, let us say, the arts of other countries? That is a very special question. Not only the fact that India has had a high place for art, India produced a huge quantity of art. The amount of temples that were built in India, the amount of painting that was done, the great musicians, the poets, the writers, composers of epics, the Vyasas that we have produced is unparalleled in the history of mankind. So it is not just that the arts have a certain quantity in India, but they also have a very specific value, and also they are integral to the Indian way of life. You see, you go to the poorest man's hut in India. Now, this may not be true these days, but it was true, let's say, 50 years ago. It was true in my childhood. Before industrialization has ravaged our aesthetic sense in India, this was true. You go to a very poor man's hut, and you will still find that on the walls something is painted, or that the walls have a strip of design. Now, this shows that even with very limited means, even with extremely limited means, the person living there wants to beautify. Now, this desire to have just a touch of beauty, a touch of something which improves life, which gives a new quality to life, that is the most special thing about India. India has insisted, our culture has insisted, that no matter what, no matter how limited your means are, how poor you are, you will do things with an excellence. Now, this whole idea of doing things with an excellence is actually the basis of what may be called art. In another context, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Yogaha karmasu kaushalam. Now, this yoga is not just in the context of reaching out to the divine. This yoga is in the context of living life. So whatever is done in life is to be done with dexterity, with kaushal, with beauty, with creation of something which is more than the normal. So, what is it that India celebrates? India celebrates in art reaching out for something which elevates us, which elevates the quality of our life. Now, that elevation is not merely an entertainment. It is not time pass. You see, these days, many people have a rather poor view of art. They'll say, well, why are you going to watch a film? Ji, time pass karna hai. You see, that's the sort of thing people say. I just want to spend a couple of hours. Now, that's the worst kind of attitude you can have to art. That art is only for those who are idlers. Art is only for those who can't make money. Or art is only for those who would entertain you, take your mind away after you have done a lot of work. Now, that is simply not the attitude to art. Unfortunately, in present day India, most of us who are involved with art in some way or the other seems to be thinking that way. But let me tell you, that is not the way our ancestors thought of it. That was not the way till even people 2 generations ago thought of it. So what was it that they thought of when they thought of art? Well, more than entertainment or more than manoranjan, it is what may be called mano parivartan. That is, it is changing a state of consciousness. And how does it change the state of consciousness? Does it change just by telling a story, creating a certain emotional impact, leading you into a world which is a world of fantasy and reality and relief, from where you have forgotten the harsh realities of life? Or is it something else? It is certainly something else, and that is, it also has a lot of instruction. Instruction means that it is able to tell us what is good in life and what is not good in life. So, when you look at the great epic Ramayana, or when you look at the great epic Mahabharata, then right in the beginning of these two texts, we are told as to why these great works were written. Now, Ramayana was written because you present a great character, the character of Rama. And Mahabharata was written because you represent a conflict between dharma and selfishness, dharma and anger, righteousness and personal demands, selfish demands. So the whole idea of art is also to lay down certain values which improve our life. However, art does it in a very different way. Art simply doesn't preach, or art is not simply a method of creating a political propaganda. A lot of people, especially our Marxist friends in India today, think that the purpose of art is to bring a revolution. But that is not the whole truth. The purpose of art is to give you higher values, good values, and to tell them in a manner that they go deep into yourself. Now, how is it that this happens? This happens when you create something which may be called beautiful. So, creation of the beautiful, creation of something which is not seen ordinarily in life, is the primary purpose of art. You see, we have great books that tell us what is valuable, that give us what may be called upadesh, or what is a good life, or they can tell us about the subtleties of different philosophic systems. So you can go to philosophy for that. You can go to a politician and learn, a serious politician like Kautilya or Plato, and learn about what is a good state, what is a good economy. You can learn all these things from different sources, but there is one thing which you cannot learn anywhere, and that is what is beauty. What is something so special which you do not get anywhere else in life. Now, talking of that, let me begin by telling a few things. So the first thing is that art changes the quality of our life and makes our life more acceptable. That is why art is considered to be most essential for education. That an educated person must have a sense of enjoying art and maybe producing it. So, what is it? It is simply this, that those things in life which appear to us very painful, they can be turned into pleasurable in art. You see, for instance, nobody likes to see separation or death or some other kind of suffering in actual life. We want pleasure. We want pleasure all the time. We want that our near and dear persons should also have a life of pleasure. But that doesn't happen. There is suffering, there is pain all the time. That is part of life. Sukh and dukh are both in life. But what art does is that art changes our dukh into sukh. So, when you hear a story in which there is suffering, when you hear the story about, let us say, the separation of Rama from Sita, or you hear the story of Shakuntala being thrown out by Dushyanta, then after hearing that story, after watching that play, after reading that poem, or seeing that painting on Shakuntala's suffering, you like to see that painting again and again. You like to hear that poem again and again. So that whole suffering, that karuna situation, that karuna, that pathos of life turns into karuna rasa in art. So the Shakuntala in life, which we don't want to see, we don't want to see a suffering of that sort, but when that is transmuted into art, it is something which we want to see. So this is one of the most essential things about art, that art teaches us how to deal with the harsh realities of life by understanding them in a manner in which we even derive pleasure, in which we become less selfish. You see, how will that happen? That will not happen unless you rise above your petty interest. So, a person who has cultivated the arts properly must also train oneself or transmute one's personality to become more sensitive to others, to become more understanding of the world, to become somebody who cares for others. And art makes one experience that. So art makes us what is called in our old Sanskrit language, art makes us sahridaya. Now it is said that only a sahridaya can appreciate art. Now what does sahridaya mean? What is this word in Sanskrit? Sahridaya. One who is able to put his heart to the pain of others, or to the pleasure of others, or to things which are not entirely his. One who is able to see somebody else's presentation, somebody else's creation, which may not agree with his ideas or her ideas. I like to hear stories in art which are not very familiar. And I like to know about certain kinds of life, certain choices of life, which are new, which are not entirely known to me. I like to know about those things which I have never experienced. Something which is not part of my daily experience of life. So I want to see something wonderful. I want to see something heroic. I want to see something so elevating and different that I cannot experience it in life. So I go to art and I experience it there. The whole concept of the heroic and the wonderful, which has been encapsulated in India as Veeraras and Adbhutaras, is actually that. You see, what is Veeraras? Veeraras is an activity which only a very special person is able to do, which an ordinary person cannot do. And when that act is completed, then we say, this is miraculous. ये तो अद्भुत है. तो राम ने समुद्र के ऊपर सेतु बांधा, तो ये काम सब नहीं कर सकते. तो ये काम हीरोइक काम है. और जब हम इसको देखते हैं तो ये क्या कहते हैं हम, कि ये अद्भुत है. So when we see this, we say this is an act of heroism. It is not ordinary. And when you see that, you say, well, this is not only heroic, it is wondrous, it is special. So this experience of the heroic, this experience of the wonderful is what art brings us. The purpose of art is not to just go on showing us what we experience in life. Now when that happens, then what you do is you make a third-rate Bombay film. Now that's exactly the problem with a lot of entertainment industry. They just show us what we already know. So you see a large number of these TV serials in which they just go on portraying and showing the activity which is all around us and which has no perception of anything special, anything elevating, anything thoughtful, or anything which may improve our lives. So, unless that experience is given to us, there can be no utility of art. And now, before ending, I would like to say something which is also the most specific thing about Indian art and which could be said to be the crux of Indian art. I said a moment ago that art is pursuit of something adbhut, beautiful, full of rasa, elevating. And in portraying that, in showing that, how does art achieve it? Art achieves it by showing us what is this total creation. As I said, art is not going to talk to us about life as we have experienced, about the small terrestrial life of the town I live in or even the country I live in. Art is going to talk to me about Martyalok, about Divilok, about Patalalok. It's going to talk to me about the divine. It's going to talk to me about what is below the earth or which is something terrible. So the art is going to talk about the whole of creation. Now, expressing the whole of creation and giving you an idea of this creation is the crux of Indian art. Why is it that Indian art emphasizes it so much? Let me give an example to clarify what I have just said. You may see the sculpture of, let us say, a sculpture of Bhagavan Buddha, Bodhisattva. Bodhisattva sitting in meditation. But Bodhisattva is never shown sitting in meditation just alone. He is shown as the whole creation around him. He is shown as the Yaksha, the Kinnara, the gods, the plants, the trees, the stars, different parts of the creation around him. So he is shown as part of the creation and as center of the creation. Similarly, the other devatas, let us say Vishnu. Vishnu is shown not just as Vishnu, or not just as Vishnu with Lakshmi, but Vishnu is shown as the center of the whole creation. The creation around and with Vishnu. So the creator is shown with creation. And in Indian art, there is always an emphasis in portraying creation as beautiful. So, Indian art celebrates the beauty of creation. Why? Because unlike the Christian world or unlike the Islamic world, the creator and the creation are not two in Hindu philosophy. The creator manifests as creation. He manifests to the extent, or she manifests to the extent, that she or he becomes somebody on the terrestrial world, somebody as an avatar, somebody who comes down to the earth and is part of our daily living. So, the whole force behind creation, the creator becomes creation, and creation which is beautiful. Now, this interplay between the creator and the creation is called Leela. And to portray that Leela is one and the fundamental purpose of Indian art. So Indian art, whether it is Buddhist art or Jain art or Vaishnava art or Tantric art or Shaiva art, of any kind, of any period, you will see, will be constantly celebrating this relationship between the creator and the creation. And the creator will become part of creation. He would become a person in human body as an avatar in the creation. And the whole play of the creator as creation, as avatar, as Leela is something which is most essential and the fundamental story of Indian art. So I have tried to give you in a short period something which I consider to be most unique about Indian art, and how Indian art is special, and the special message it has, and the special message that it gives. I hope I have been able to put some ideas into your mind, and you have appreciated them. Thank you so much for a very patient listening. Namaskar.